Thank you so much for joining. It's Monday night. We made it. Hopefully, you're not getting fried like we are here in Texas and it's cooler where you are. But it's already time to start thinking about fall and spooky season, which is my favorite thing. So, we're in the Hocus Pocus class and we're going to be going over embroidery basics, how to cut felt, and just how to make a really fun banner. And we're going to talk a little bit about contrast and storage. So this is a live class, so just be mindful that, it's new, it's after work, people are tired. So if they ask a question that maybe you don't care for, just be kind, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn. I'm going to go through everything, and then we're going to talk about questions at the end. So if something comes up while I'm teaching, just put it in the chat, and then Chenille will read it to me at the end, and we can make sure everything gets answered, because that's one of the benefits of doing this live, is that I can talk to y'all and answer your questions here. Awesome. So we're going to go through materials. We've seen this on the internet. It's hard to see here, but I'm going to go through, put this off, and we can go through everything. And you can find everything online on Michael's, where the class sign up is. First thing we need, our banner. We're just going to rip this open. I had a printout of some letters. So these are cut out. The printed letters, our peel and stick fabric fuse. The stuff is awesome. Embroidery thread and our sweet, sweet embroidery needles. Scissors, and my favorite little scissors that are made for sticky stuff, which are awesome. Fabric scissors. And these are my tiny fabric scissors. I lifted some different ones in the class, but those are great. They're made by Singer. If you buy fabric scissors that are by a sewing machine brand, they're going to be good. Mine are Fiskars, and I've had them for years and years and years. Felt. We love a felt. It's a big old sheet, and we'll have extras. So if you do an oops, it's not a big deal. For my first one, I ended up with quite a big amount of scrappage. So in case you want to do something extra, maybe you want to cut out like a witch hat or something, that would be really fun. Don't worry about that. And pins. We're going to talk about Dressmaker pins and how awesome they are. Yes, I'm getting hyped about pins because that's what we're doing here. We're getting hyped about stuff. All right. So I went ahead, because I already made this before, and cut out the letters from the printout that was attached. So we're going to cut to the beginning just for sake of time. And I know y'all can take your normal scissors and cut them out. So we're going to start with P, because we've got a straight, a curve, and a cutout. So I'm going to show you how I do that. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is have our letter cut out. And we're going to pin it to our felt. And then we're going to cut it out. And then we'll apply it. So since the P is a right angle, it's nice to just kind of cheat and put this right at this sweet right angle, so we don't even have to cut the straights. But since we're here to learn, we will move it away. So we're gonna get our dressmaker pins. They're not necessary if you have just other straight pins that have the big, spheres on the ends, that's fine. But why I love dressmaker pins is that they're really thin. So especially when you do things with sewing, especially finer fabrics, you won't make as big holes. They just are they're a more subtle pin, if that makes sense. Okay, so I just went right ahead. Ooh, important note, make sure you take your sticker off your felt. Okay, taking stickers off is something that's very important to me. It's a pet peeve when I see them on. I take a sticker off, I start at the corner, and I try and peel at a 45 angle and pray to whatever deity you talk to that it comes off well. These come off well, but it just takes a little patience to make sure you get your stickers off. All right, great success. Okay, so I've got my letter. I'm gonna put it over here. I just took my pin, and I just am going to put it through the fabric and have it come back on the other side. I'm pinning. that was weird because I showed you, so I'll do it where you can't see. So that's pretty flat. And what we're doing is trying to get our letter as flat to the fabric as possible. Now, this felt's pretty chonky, but as you do this, you can see that if you're using a thin fabric, it wouldn't really kind of pull or mess up your pattern here. And I'm gonna make sure my letter's flat. Take another pin and do the same thing. So push it into the fabric and have it pop out the other side. And then I'm just tucking the pins in, so when I cut it, my scissors won't hit a pin because that will wreck some scissors. And another. So another pin. Okay, that looks flat. We're gonna cut it out. Always use fabric scissors on fabric. They're amazing. That's what they're for. Regular scissors will get destroyed and you will be sad. Fabric scissors are amazing. Also, be sweet to them and never cut paper with them. They will also get destroyed. So they have a one good job they're good at, and that's it. So I find it's easier to cut my shape out from the larger shape, especially when you're doing something like a curve. So we're just going to cut close, and now we're going to be able to work with it a lot easier. All right, let's do this. Okay, great. So it's pinned. We're just going to cut. Cut as close to our letter as we can without cutting our paper. If we do, it's okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Make sure y'all can see what I'm doing here. All right. First cut, pretty clean. And do the other. I'm going to cut through. I like to do the straights first, and then the curves. As I'm here, I'm looking at this kind of crumpled, so I'm going to try and flatten this out and then cut. Fabulous. Here, I'm going to be careful and make sure I don't cut too far into my P. Right up to the edge here. Nice, clean. Okay, and now I'm going to cut along this little straight edge. Find at the corner. There was a little bit of fuzz here. We'll go in and take our smaller scissors and clean up. All right, it's starting, it's happening. Letters are forming. Okay, so when I cut curves, I like to kind of move my fabric and my scissors, because sometimes when we're cutting curves, where's the scrap at? Sometimes we're cutting curves, it can be easy to like cut and then cut and then cut, and then you've got like some angled mess. If that happens for you, we'll talk about fixing it, but I find it's easy if you kind of get into the middle of your scissor blade and curve your fabric while you're working. So we're gonna do that here. Pressing it down. Little curve, little turn, little cut, little turn, little cut. Nice. Okay. So I can see that there's a tiny little bit of a sharp here. We'll fix that when we unpin. And then the reason I chose P as well, because we have to cut this out. So how do you do that? I like to get little scissors and make an X. So we're gonna get it as close to this edge as we can, and then we'll do the edges. What are you saying? I will show you. If you fold it in half, I'm just gonna make a little, actually it's kind of easier with your paper scissors sometimes. We're just gonna make a cut in the middle just to get our scissors in there. And now I'm going to cut right to the edge. We're gonna make an X. As close to the edge as we can. Not cutting into our letter. right, so we've got this X pattern. Now we can get our tiny scissors. Now it's a lot easier. We've kind of broken this down into smaller pieces. Now I'm going to put this parchment underneath so we have more contrast. You can see me better. You see better? All right, a little bit. So now we've just broken this down into these edges that are a little more manageable to cut. Now I'm just going to go in my small scissors and just cut this edge out. Great. Okay. And then the same thing I was doing, just like a little cut, little turn. These fabric scissors I've had for years, and they are due to be sharpened as well. So if you're on your, if you've had them for a while and they're not cutting like they used to, you can take them to get sharpened, and they're good as new. That works for your paper scissors as well. Sometimes they just need to be sharpened again. Okay. Cool. Looking like a P. Let's unpin it. I'm just pulling my pins out the way they came. Ta-da! So I'm going to fix this because it's a little pointy to me. And I'm going to kind of, we're going to blend that. I'm just going to freehand it because we're pretty familiar with these letter form shapes. And I think I'm going to get my little one and I'm just going to soften this. I just took off the tiniest amount, but looks a little more smooth. This one's got a little bit of a drag, something. So this is a Halloween craft, so if yours is a little off, we can call it spooky and not a big deal. And if you did your first one and you were like, I hate that, that's okay, do it again. Repin it, we've got some extra felt. It's not a big deal. When you have your letter, you feel good about it. Clean up everything. I always start a scrap pile off to my side. It makes things easier to kind of clean as I go. So I just put all my scrap felt out of view. And we're gonna grab one of our letters. We're gonna grab one of our little banner flags here. And we're gonna adhere it. So this stuff is awesome. It is fabric fuse. Now there are some types that are iron-on, but because this is Texas summer, you couldn't get me to turn the iron on. And this stuff is really quite strong. It says it's permanent, so you do have to know exactly where you're going to put it down, but I'll show you how it can be a little foolproof. So, since we want our P to go here, we're going to have to put it on the back so we don't have it backwards like Karen and Mean Girls. Get our tape, and we're going to look at where I put the embroidery on the original one. Okay, so for the P on the original one, I put some embroidery over here. We can't really run a needle through this stuff, so I'm going to make sure when I put my tape that I cheat it to this edge. So if I want it to be reflected and be the same, we're going to just make sure our tape is out of the way. Yeah, stuff is double-sided, pretty awesome. Sticky side here. Go ahead. And again, just kind of eyeball it. And get your paper scissors, not fabric scissors. I have these ones that are made for cutting sticky stuff that I am obsessed with. Let's go ahead and cut. Get your scissors stuck. Bonus points. And right, since we know that we're going to embroider on this side of it, we're going to just make sure the tape is closer to this edge, so we don't have a hard time. And I'm just going to press it down. And we can we'll put some here and here. Now you don't have to embroider exactly where I did. It's dealer's choice. You have to plan ahead to be like, where do I want to put these details? And then make sure your tape isn't going to be in the way. Looks like a good size to put here. Nice and flat. This clear ruler, of which I also am obsessed. And we're going to use it for whatever else you have if you don't happen to have this guy, to burnish it down. So we're going to put it on there and really press hard. Press hard. Okay. All of these, took my ruler and I put it 1.5 inches away from the top edge. So that was how I lined up all my shapes so they'd be at the same height. So I'm going to place this here, and that'll be my guide at the top. And then I'm going to flip our letter over, and we're just going to eyeball it on the center. But first, so make sure this is really attached, and then we're just going to take a fingernail and peel the corner, like how we took the sticker off. It's important to really burnish this down because sometimes you can pull off our tape as well. And we're just going to peel off the backing. Get into the trash pile. So I put my letter, my ruler 1.5 inches from the top. And we know this is permanent, so I kind of like to eyeball it first. But yeah, this looks about centered. Feels good to me. I'm just going to gently place it down. Press, and then smooth it. And then really going to press it down. So you want it to stay. Pushing down pretty hard. All right, awesome. So we're going to rinse and repeat for all these letters, right? So when we cut out all our other shapes, it's going to be the same thing. So we know how to cut the curves. We know how to get into these negative spaces here with our letter forms. You can totally do this. Now the S, I'm going to warn you, it's the most pain in the butt, but it's okay. I just recommend cutting off the straights, getting in there. If we have time, I'll do the S because that's the most tricky. We're really using your smaller scissors that came in the set. They're going to be our best friend when it comes to these little curves. So if we have time, I'll cut that out as well. We want to make sure we get a whole banner flag done, and then we can go. All right, great success. Really just push it down again because it's just adhesive, it's glue, and these embroidery is really just, you know, it's decorative, and it's another way to attach this here. But unless you want to put more on each, you know, we're really using the glue to hold our felt to our banner. So push it down real good. Okay, let's get our thread. We have a little skein of embroidery thread. We've got needles. Let's do it. The worst part of these is finding where you started. So these are folded into just on it. It's just a big loop and it's about half. So for each little X, you need about 2 lengths, but you can always do a little more. So that comes out to like about 14 inches. Cut about 14 inches for 2 X's. that are next to each other. If you want a little extra slack, cut yourself a little more. You still have a decent amount left over for this craft. So it's measured. I'm gonna use my scissors and cut it. We've got these needles. Make sure you get pointy ones, the sharp ends, the ones that are linked in the file. Some embroidery needles have dull ends, and that's going to be really hard to get through all this fabric with. I grabbed the biggest needle. It's really difficult. When you're doing anything like this with threading and needles, get all the lights on you can in your house. I'm gonna put this parchment underneath so you can see better. We've got our string. In this, I've got some water off camera because we can see it's fraying. I'm just gonna grab the water, dip my fingertips in it, and get the end to be nice and sharp. Okay, so I'm just a little bit of wet fingies. And I'm just gonna thread the needle. Great success. Okay, so I'm gonna put my needle halfway, and then I'm just gonna do an overhand knot and tie this together. I'm using my thumb as a measurement, and I'll put my knot. Got a little frayed on me. It's okay. I'll do it again. Okay, so we've got a knot. Great success. We can do a double knot just to make sure it's not going to go through the back of our bow. It won't, but I just like to do that as a good rule of thumb. You can see on our original one here, I think I did a triple just because that's how I like to roll. Okay. So we've got our string. It's knotted. Let's do this. I find it's easier to go through on the burlap side than trying to go through the felt because it's thicker. So it looks like I had my little X's here. So we're going to start on the outside of this P. I'm going to flip it over. And the first part is the hardest. You're just trying to be like, where am I at? So I'm just poking the needle through to see where my thread would be. Yeah, that looks good to me. Okay. Over here. Look through. And I'm just going to eyeball. I think I'm going to do the X part, right? So we're not doing straight across. We're making little cross hatches. I'm just eyeballing the angle. And I think this looks good. So I'm just catching the edge of my felt. And I'm just running my needle back through on the other side. And I'm going to do the same thing we did on the other side here and just gauge. But now I can see, well, if this is 1 point, this is 1 point. Probably stands to reason that putting my needle in about here would look good. That's fun. Sometimes it's fun to not have your X's be perfect, right? It's witchy, it's fun. I'm going to have this one feel longer stroke than the other one. So about here. Looks good to me. Yay, first X. And then we're going to do one more. Looking at what I've got down here, this might be a nice place. Start my next X the same way we did. A little more into the felt. Probably not here, but let's look. Yeah. Hey. Okay. And now we've got this left over. I'm just going to take the scissors, cut our needle free. And then we're just going to double knot to tie this off. So I'm just now going to take the scissors and clean up. It's cutting, so maybe it's about 1/4 inch. I just like to have clean backs. Awesome. So this is our first one. And this is it. We're just rinsing and repeating. I find it really meditative to do this, and yeah, hopefully you do too. So I had a fun time having these vary. So I just went through when I was making these, and I just wanted the eye to travel, right? So we've got the X's here, O's, C's are down here for the embroidery, and just having your eye move. So sometimes I would do 2 or 3. If you do 3, go ahead and get 3 more lengths of the skein. So we had like, it was 14 inches we cut for the embroidery thread to make 2 X's. Go ahead and grab another 7 inches. It's going to be more than you need, but it's kind of easier sometimes to do that. So maybe we'll do that. Looks like we're okay on time, so we can do that. Let's cut out the S because that's the most butt pain. And then I'll talk about how to store it. Chenille, do you mind when it's 8:50 pinging me so I make sure I get to any questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, we've already done this before, team. We got this. We cut out our S from our printout. We're losing our pins because we've got everything everywhere. We're getting our pins. Run it through the back, forward, flatten it. So this is actually a pattern making technique. So if you ever draft patterns or you patterns from when you go to Michael's and there's all those Butterick patterns, they're all printed on tissue paper, and you cut them out and then you pin them to your fabric like this. Now, when you're sewing, you'll have seam allowances, which is the ends on the side where your stitches go, but this is that same kind of idea. Okay, so I've got my S pinned, making it pretty flat, and then we're just going to grab our scissors, cut it out to make it more manageable. Get out here. We're going to talk about this one too. Okay, so we've got this. Let's get our straight edges. Love it. Do the outside, then the inside. Do the same thing over here. I know I'm going to go back and fix that. I can see it's a little pointy. And this one's a little jagged too. I was going too fast. That's fine. We can fix it. Now it's time to bring in the small scissors. I like to get rid of the scraps too as I get more and more detailed. I just find it's easier. I'm making tiny cuts and I'm just moving my fabric to get that little shape. All right, so it was a pretty clean cut on my inside curve. It was just lots of teeny cuts as you saw and moving that fabric. I'm going to just clip out this little bit of extra fuzz and unpin. For this in particular, I do keep a rubber band around these because I find that the lid pops off and it is not a fun time if all your pins open. So I recommend rubber banding these closed when you're storing your straight pins. Okay, we have an S. You got a little bit of jagged stuff here. That's fine. We clean up. See what we're doing. One of the reasons I chose felt, not only because it's inexpensive, but it's really nice when you cut it, it doesn't fray. You don't have to worry about the edges. It basically stays where you put it. There are some other colors in Michael's. A burgundy might be nice. A dark purple. Just make sure that there's enough contrast between your background and your type because we want it to be legible. Same thing we did here. And we just put it about an inch and a half away from the top. Line that up. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to see in the original, I had some X's on each end, so I'll just make sure I put my tape not too close to the edge. So we're going to do the same thing. Just eyeball. Nope, not fabric scissors. Sticky scissors. Perfect. I'm putting the parchment down for contrast. I don't normally work on top of parchment. I work on my big cutting board. In here, and then we'll put a little bit here, and then we'll embroider just like we did. burnish this down really well. I'm pushing hard, make sure it sticks, and the adhesive stays when we peel off the backing. Get another one from our bag. Peel off the backing. There we go. That corner wanted to crop right. An inch and a half down from the top, so we know that that's my top, and then we're just going to do what we did before. Line it up about center to me. And place it down. And then the ruler push it really well. We got another one. We're going to do the same thing with the embroidery. It's like this one, I had it on each edge. And give myself about 14 inches. Ask where I threw my needle. There we go. Come on, bud. Like a goof, I just licked my thread to get it to be not fraying. But if you'd like to be more civilized, grabbing your fingers, wetting your fingers, and cleaning up the edge so you can get it through your needle, it's probably the way to go, especially if you're on camera.
Hey, Lauren, you're a little bit off camera, just to let you know.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. If you can't get it to thread, twisting your embroidery floss is a good hack. Do just as we did, get our needle centered and do 2 knots. Okay, so we'll start with this one. Same thing we did. I'm just gonna use my needle to kind of figure out where I am in space here. That looks pretty good. Hi, puppy. Can you wait, please? No, can you be quiet? 1 second. Okay, let's go to the patio. Come on. The joys of live. Okay, so we just put it through. No, sir, get down. Hi. You can't be in the class. You can't be in the class. Can you go lay down? Can you go lay down, please? Down. And then I'm going to use my, no, sir. Apologies. Puppy problems. Hey, you're normally pretty good. I'm going to grab my needle. Sir? So sorry, 1 second.
Lauren, you're still on mute.
Thank you. I just kind of use the point of my needle to see, to judge about where I'd like the X to end. Looks good. You know, they don't have to be perfect. That's part of the fun, right? So I chose this to make this a little longer. It's nice to have things not perfect all the time. And I'm just going to cut my thread, grab the two pieces, and we're just going to make 2 knots just to tie it off. And I'm just going to trim probably about 1/4 inch. All right, we've got one, and we can do the other. Grab more floss. Probably only need 10 inches for a single X. Yeah, we're gonna grab some water. Threading a needle, you always need really excellent light. Do as you've been doing, just 2 overhand knots. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna do this one. All right, we're gonna see, where's my needle at? About here. That sounds good. Pull it through. If you realize, oh no, I put it too far, I don't like where this is, you actually can go backwards. So if I want to undo this, I'm just going to be really gentle, pull this thread until we get to where the needle is. And then if you're very careful, you can pull the thread and align the needle with the direction it came out of and get it to go back through the hole it came in. So we decided we didn't like where that is. Okay, we can do it again. So now we're back in business. That feels better. Great. Paper, scissors, try it off. So we just rinse and repeat this for all our letters. Those are definitely the hardest letter forms, so I wanted to give an example cutting those out, but really have fun. And with this, you know, you can absolutely put way more little X's around. This is just, you know, your jumping off point, but this is your craft. So if you decide you want to put a lot more, that's great. And we're just going to trim it about 1/4 inch. Awesome. Okay, when it comes time, you've got all your beautiful letters. If you decide for where your piece is going, you want to line them up. Oh no, it got crazy. If you want to line them up all in one line, so Hocus Pocus is on one line, that's fine, but you'll need a spacer between Hocus and Pocus so it doesn't read as one word. So what I did was grab another blank one, and I just put some fun X's in the middle as just like a little witchy spacer. So all I did was I just made an X. So I did the same thing from 1.5 inches down. I kind of just drew on pencil about the same shape as our letters would take up. So I just made these little pencil marks on the back, if you can see. Like about here is kind of where I want to put my X's. And then I just drew some in pencil, but you can tell as I started making X's, I just kind of changed it up, but have fun. I think I got about like, you can get a couple inches, like 30 inches to do these 5X's all in one string, but you can do it like we were doing, where you just do one X at a time and re-thread it. But if you have one long string, you only have to thread your needle once, so that's nice. But that was really fun. So if you want to have it all on one, like one string, Hocus Pocus, with a space in between, I recommend doing something fun in the middle rather than just leaving it plain. Or if you liked the way it looked in the picture, I cut our thread. So it takes a little finagling, but I got all my letters together on one string. You do get tangled. But also we're going to talk about storage pretty quickly. So I got all my Hocus lined up, threaded them through with the string that comes in our banner. It comes with some jute. So I just threaded them through. I like the way it looks having the jute on the top. So I just did, over, under, over, under. And then once I got them all lined up, kind of spaced out, I ended up cutting our jute from 3.5 feet. So I cut one long string of the jute at 3.5 feet, and then I filled the Pocus on the next one. So all I did then, so I just cut the string at 3.5 feet, put the Hocus on one, put the rest on Pocus, and then I literally just tied the two together on the ends. So it was just a double knot. So when we hold it up, we've got enough space where we can read Hocus and Pocus. Clearly not right now, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, really quickly, I want to talk about storage of this. So year after year, it's not like this, but I've been playing with it, so it's a little crazy. How I stored this from when I made this to now was I just got a quart-sized bag. I labeled it, and I got some parchment paper. This is not wax paper. Wax paper will get wax residue on your pretty work, and you'll be sad. So I cut little sheets in between the letters. So all I did was, when I had my Hocus Pocus lined out, I would put a little piece of parchment in between, and then I would flip the felt to the felt and lay it. And then I would just go in order when they were nice and lined up, and put another piece of parchment in between, just to keep it safe so they don't rub on each other. If they do, they're rubbing on a smooth surface, just to keep them from getting damaged. And then I just made a neat little pile, and I just slipped it in my quart bag. So when I pulled it out, it was very neat, very easy to have everything safe. It's in a small bag, and it's not going to get damaged, because we know, everyone's got crazy Halloween bins, at least I do, and it's all sorts of stuff. So I love taking a few moments to do this, but then you have it every year. And every time I do something like this, I'm like, oh, love past me for doing this. So a little bit of prep always saves us from having a tangled mess. We're here for that. All right. So that's how we made our super fun Hocus Pocus banner. That's how we store it. I want to thank everyone so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned. I hope your coven is just delighted at your new sign. And if you enjoyed this, please, take more classes, share. I am on the Instagrams at Probably Sketch, and you can see, previews of what I'm doing, and sign up for my next classes. I have more Halloween. I'm doing a Halloween class every Monday, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific. We are doing a bat pinata. One of our crafts is a bat pinata. You can make a bat pinata with me. We're doing spooky, spooky witch hands on watercolor. There's just, I love Halloween. This is my season. So we're going to have a lot of fun crafting until the 31st of October. And that's all I have. So I'd love to just say thank you so much. Share, have a great time. If you make something on Instagram and you're on it, please tag me. I'd love to see what you make. Makes me happy. And you can also tag Learn with Michaels or Michaels stores as well. But I'd love to open up with any questions we have while we have time.
We haven't had any questions yet, but we could definitely wait like 30 seconds, a minute,
Yeah,
however long, to see if some questions come through.
love it. Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the good things about being live is that if something does come up, we can answer. If anyone is thinking or typing, there's also really fun embroidery thread colors. So it could be really nice to go ahead and play with, maybe not orange, but maybe it's a purple, depending on what your decor is like, or a red, because we've got really good contrast with our burlap and black. You can have fun, if just the classic Halloween orange and black isn't your thing, have fun, go pick out something that makes sense for you.
We have a couple questions now.
Yeah.
The first one is, can we cut the felt with a Cricut?
I don't know. I would be mindful because felt is synthetic, so I am not sure if Cricut. I'm not versed in Cricut, so I would make sure you go to the manufacturer's website to make sure, because we don't want to have any burning or singeing since it's polyester.
And then the other one is, where can you get your fabric scissors sharpened?
That's a great question. I don't actually know if every Michaels store does this. Is something I can find out, but worth a search. I would just do search fabric scissors sharpening in your area and see what comes up, because it just depends on the business. Also, I've had my fabric scissors since for 14 years, and now they need to be sharpened. So it really does. They last a long time. These have been through some life with me.
I think that's it for questions. You were a great teacher.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I hope everyone had fun. Thank you so much for joining. Happy Halloween, Halloween forever. I hope y'all join and tune in for some other stuff. Share it, love it, internet things. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening.